historically, lyrics have kind of taken, I guess, a little bit of a second place, but we all know, certainly up here, we know that if you don't have a lyric, you don't have much.
Unpredictability would be my one-word answer. It may not be the right answer, but I think if you know where a song's going from the second it starts, and you've heard all those phrases before, I mean, you guys are all songwriters. If it feels like it's been said 1,000 times, it's because it has. Well, and I think that's what, for me, it strikes me in a lyric that I haven't, wow, they actually said something in the English language in a way that I haven't heard before, and that's what makes a great lyric.
I also think, though, that there's something about having the lyric and the melody working together, like how the phrasing is and how the words fit into the melody. Because sometimes it feels like maybe you were using your mind to try to fit words into a certain melody, and maybe it technically fits, but then there's other words that if I just said them, they'd be like, those are cool words, but you put it with a particular melody, sing in a particular way, and the combination of the two gives it a lot of power.
I think it's about finding, succinctly, it's about finding a brand new way to say the same old shit, basically. Yeah. Quincy Jones taught me a great lesson when we were working on the Bad album for Michael. He said the best songwriters are rewriters.
Yes.
Let me say
Amen.
that again. Let me just say that again. The best songwriters are rewriters. You usually, I never settle for my first draft at a lyric. I always try to hone the idea. And I like internal rhymes. I'm really into internal rhymes. And the more clever I can make a lyric, the more interesting I think it is to me. And if it's interesting to me, I think it might be interesting to other listeners.
James Joyce, the great Irish writer of prose, once said about choosing a word and how he made his decisions, that there was only one word that was appropriate for each position in a sentence. Wow. And so he would, now, do I believe that? I don't know. I mean, it sounds pretty far out, but the stuff he wrote was immortal, and he made a place for himself in history with his writing, choosing the words that he did choose.
I've been doing it for a while, as we all have. I kind of go with my gut a lot. I try not to. I'm just not an overthinker. I mean, I will sweat it out, I'll work at it, but a lot of times my first instinct is my best. And so a lot of times, if it feels right to me, it says in as few words as it can what the emotion or the thought that I'm trying to convey. I put it on the page and move on, I mean, that's me.
Ultimately, to me, a successful song is one that opens your heart. So whatever combination opens your heart and strikes that chord with everybody is the right choice. And it's not really a rule, it's not always proper, sometimes it's not grammatically correct, Sometimes it's not like the cool thing everybody's saying, but the gut and the heart, I go with that, for sure.
Actually, Richard Rodgers, the great composer of Oklahoma and Carousel and a whole legendary sort of genre of Broadway shows with Larry Hart and with Oscar Hammerstein too, said there was no such thing as inspiration. He dismissed it out of hand. Inspiration, actually, the literal meaning of the word inspiration, and I'm sure some of you know this, I'm not trying to talk down, it means full of the Spirit, filled with the Spirit. Inspired is filled with the Spirit. Well, some people don't believe in being filled with the Spirit. Personally, I believe in inspiration, and Oscar Hammerstein too believed he couldn't write lyrics without inspiration.
I do get inspired, I feel like. And those moments for me are the quick moment of the idea, when I'm in the shower or brushing my teeth or driving to somewhere or whatever it is, where just that whatever happens to songwriters pops into your head and you go, that's cool. And you think, I should put that in my phone. I should write that down. Or if you wake up in the middle of the night and you don't put it in your phone, and then you wake up the next morning, you're like, why didn't I put that in my phone? Because usually it's that idea that's so good, that's the one I'll never forget. Oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing ever, so I don't have to write that down, and then you forget it later. I would also say that most of the times where I'm truly inspired come at when I'm sitting and writing a song already. I think that working provides the opportunities for inspiration, more so than anything else. And so for me, it's showing up for work, it's sitting down to write, and hoping God shows up too.
I get inspiration from everywhere. I think it can come from anyone and from everywhere, and from anything that you hear or see in an ad or on TV or walking down the street or in a cafe, or you're sitting next to someone, you're overhearing bits of conversations, or especially New York, when you're walking past and you hear parts of conversations. I just love that. So I was in a songwriting session a couple years before Glenn Ballard and I wrote the song Man in the Mirror. And I was writing with this keyboard player named John Beasley, very famous jazz keyboard player. And we're in the writing session, and the phone rings. And instead of letting the machine pick up the phone, he just picks up the phone and starts to have this very casual conversation. And I carry a lyric book with me when I'm writing. And while we were writing, I was looking through this lyric book. And when he got on the phone, just like, oh, nothing, I'm just hanging out. And I'm thinking, no, he didn't say he's just hanging out. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. And I'm flipping through the book, and he goes, the man? What man? Oh, the man in the mirror. For some reason, that phrase stuck out, and I wrote that phrase.
I think one important turning point for me was changing my belief about inspiration, because I think, and this is just speaking for me, but there's some people who they kind of wait for inspiration. They kind of wait like lightning is gonna strike, and they wait for that feeling, and then they write that down, and that might work for them. But for me, I choose to believe, and you're gonna, I don't know, the more successful you get, the more pressure there is, the more fear there is, the more anxiety there is, the less you don't just get to go out with your guitar and just write whatever you want, right? So you have to be able to stay inspired. You have to be inspired on a schedule. You have to show up at 2 o'clock. You can't be like, I don't feel like it. Or, well, I'm speaking for myself. You gotta show up for work. You gotta show up for work on time. It's self-discipline. It's put your hands on your instrument. It's put the pen in your hands. It's start making noise, I was on a writing trip, and I was in 8 different hotels in 5 different countries in 5 weeks. And I would literally go check into a hotel, write a song the next day, write a song the next day, pack up, go to another country I had never been to, check into that hotel, change the money, go to, get the taxi in Sweden or whatever, show up and be like, write a song. And I got to the last day of that trip, and it was snowing, and I have never been so exhausted. I felt completely empty. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna show up. These people don't know me. They're really looking forward to working with me. That kind of pressure, you don't want to let people down. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, because I am completely out, done, drained. There's nothing here. But I chose to keep saying to myself, listen, if there's a song that needs to be written through me, I'm here, and I'm gonna show up in the snow, meet these people, and just hope to God something happens,
There about 3 years into that, I thought, man, I'm sick of sitting in my underwear at this piano. This is getting really old. I'm sorry about the visual. Yeah. And so I started working with other people, and it's a joy. I absolutely love to co-write. That means every day's different.
That's right.
You've got somebody to see, you've got somewhere to be, you've got somebody to go to lunch with. You have a reason to sit there and let God show up. If I don't have an appointment in my book, a lot of days, something else gets in the way. If I don't have to be somewhere at my office, at my studio, wherever, at X time to meet X person to write X song, then something's going to come up, and I'm probably not going to get much done, you know? And so what that allows me to do is keep office hours, you know, show up for work, and let hopefully the inspiration shows up too. So for me, it's been a great thing. You can do too much of it. I'm kind of at a point now where I probably need to start saving a lot of days in my calendar just to write on my own, because there's something still a little bit deeper about that. I mean, for some of you guys that like to write on your own, there's still something a little bit, I don't know, there's a different kind of challenge still to trying to write a hit song by yourself, or trying to write any song by yourself. So I probably need to do some of that just to get it out of my system, but I think there's a balance in there.
The honest to God truth is people want to hear what they've never heard before, and even if they're trying to tell you in terms of something that already exists, the really big songs, it's kind of like you hear them for the first time and you're like, wow, I've never heard that before. So I tend to want to go for that.
Julie was mentioning that working with someone who already has a record deal and is already making a record.
That's the easy part, right?
That's an opportunity that you should think about, is that even though you may have your own dreams of stardom and you may be writing your own songs and so on and so forth, if you get a chance to go in and work with someone else on their project and make your contribution, that's a way into the record business.
I think it's know your audience. I demo almost every song I write, but there's times that I write a song and my voice isn't the right one, and then it might be time to have somebody else sing it. So, I think it's nice if there's some kind of a way to present a song so that the song idea comes across, but an artist, if you're trying to get to a Beyonce or something, Beyonce doesn't want to hear a song that sounds like she's singing it, like Beyonce Takeoff singing it. She wants to hear a song that she'll hear, that's an amazing song, but I can put my own twist on it and bring it to the next level. So other artists who don't have maybe the same sense of self would want to hear, they're going to take off maybe you say you have this distinct style, well, you might be the next taste that we're going to hear on the radio, and there might be an aspiring artist who will take one of your things and, you know, it'll be like a signature thing. And that's what you want. So you want people to rip you off that way every chance you can.
Thanks.